All right, what is going on, guys? UFC Fight Night Vegas 100 Magny versus Prates has just ended, and I'm going to be going my full card post-fight thoughts and reactions on every fight on this card, starting with the prelim opener of Melissa Mullins versus Segula. I'm not even going to try. I had to go back and rewatch like the first 4 or 5 fights. I wasn't able to catch them, so after the event, I went back and rewatched all these fights. First round, Mullins landed better on the feet. Segula starts to attempt some grappling, and then Mullins is able to actually reverse the position. End up, I can't remember if it was half guard or full mount, but I think it was full mount for like a minute 30. Definitely wins that first round. Comes back in the second round, pretty much gets the takedown. Almost immediately, gets into full mount, works it a little bit, and then gets the TKO victory. Not much to say about it. Somewhat low-level women's MMA, but it was a good finish. Good finish. Feel bad. I saw something on Twitter. The Segula, the lady that lost, was pretty heartbroken and upset. This was her debut and loss, and pretty emotional. So support goes out to her, but it is what it is. We move on. This was a good fight. This was a good watch. Tresean Gore versus Antonio Tricoli. Tricoli's bad. He needs cut from the UFC. And Tresean Gore with that squeeze on his guillotine. That's like the second tall-ass person. He got guillotined Josh Frim as well. Both tall-ass people, and he's like almost throwing them around while they're in a guillotine. Pretty much this fight, Gore goes for the takedown almost immediately. I think they exchanged like a leg kick or two. And then Tricoli defends. And then Gore locks up the guillotine. It was minute 23 into the fight. They landed a total of, 7 total strikes combined. So not a whole lot of striking in this fight. I'd like to see Gore get in there quick. Maybe like January, or if someone pulls out, December. So I would love to see him, especially because he's coming off that injury, healed up, and start actually getting his career going forward. Love to watch him fight. Moving up the card, Cody Stamann versus Damon Blackshear. By the way, on this, I didn't realize there's actually... Well, I'll get to that in a minute. We'll go over this fight first. Stamann in this fight, he's just an old, decent veteran. Old as a turd as of fighting years, not... I think he's like 35, so he's not actually that old in reality, but in fighting years, he's old. He landed a couple good shots against Damon Blackshear, but Damon Blackshear essentially had his way with Stamann, landed good shots. Finally landed I think it was a switched flying knee or something like that. Hurt him badly, then ended up with like 3 or 4 punches. Stamann shoots in on a takedown to try and not get hit, but what did he have? Blackshear went for something. I think it was a guillotine, a mounted guillotine. Was going for a mounted guillotine, doesn't get it. Stamann defends that, gives up his back, and then Blackshear locks in the rear naked choke. Good showing for Damon Blackshear. I can't remember if I picked him via rear naked choke. I might have. I don't remember. Solid win for Damon Blackshear. Get him. Did he lose his last fight? I think he might have lost his last fight. I think he was on a 2-fight losing streak. I can't remember. He's either on a 1-fight win streak before this or a 2-fight losing streak. Anyway, good fight, good performance, Damon Blackshear. Moving up on the card, Matthew Semelsberger versus Charles Radtke. The first pick I got wrong on this fight, shocker. I thought, Semelsberger has that retard strength. He has the 0 fight IQ. He's in every fight, excluding this one, obviously. Most of his fights, he's hurting people, then just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to finish the fight. So I thought maybe he'd be able to hurt Radtke, but Radtke had the higher fight IQ. This fight only lasted 51 seconds. Semelsberger gets clipped, gets hurt, and Radtke pushes the pace until he gets the finish. He wasn't out cold, Semelsberger, but it was a standing KO. He was out. He was wobbled. He wasn't going to be able to... If they would have went on any longer, he would have got knocked out unconscious. Excuse me. Not much to say about this. It was a quick fight. A lot of finishes. I think all these 4 finishes. Moving up on the card, another finish. Elizu Zaleski dos Santos versus Zach Scrugan. I gotta get a drink of water here before I start coughing again. So this fight, I didn't even know until today. That shows you how much attention I pay to shit. I didn't even know that Nicholas Dalby had pulled out of the fight. So I have no clue. I'm assuming within a week, Zach Scrugan has stepped in on short notice, taking Dos Santos in on his debut. Tough ask. I know Elizu Zaleski dos Santos is older, but very good, well-rounded fighter, veteran of the sport. Scrugan landed a couple good leg kicks. Other than that, that was about it. Dos Santos hurt him. I will say the stoppage, although I don't think the fight outcome would have changed at all those shots that Elizu Zaleski dos Santos was landing in that finishing sequence, outside of the one he hurt him with, Scrugan was Scrugan was blocking them all on his forearms. Essentially most of those shots were landing on Zach's forearms. He has like long arms, long legs. He was kind of shelling up, defending himself. He was trying to move around, but again, I don't think the stoppage really would have mattered, even if they didn't stop it and let it keep going. I still think Elizu Zaleski dos Santos was able to get the TKO victory in the first round. So moving up the card. Damn. I don't know what's going on with me. Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Denise Gomez. Gomez, I believe, this cracks her into the top 15. Let's see. Maybe not. I swore Karolina was ranked number 15. Maybe not. Anyway, essentially, what you have is Gomez landing the better power shots. Sometimes she would implement the grappling, like up against the cage, and I'm kind of... When it goes to the ground game of the submissions, I think Karolina had the better moments, even though Gomez did have one sub attempt. I can't remember what it was, though. I think it was the first fight I started watching in. Wasn't a bad fight. You could tell there was definitely a big power discrepancy here. Denise Gomez, I believe it was in the second round, hurt Karolina, stung her with a couple shots, landed pretty solid on her chin. Pretty much just outboxed her all 3 rounds to get the decision. Not much to say about that. Moving up on the card, opening up the main card. I remember watching this fight, but I don't really remember it, to be honest. Mansur Abdul Malik versus Dusko Tudorovic. Man, I'm gonna get better at pronouncing these names. I'm kind of drawing a blank on this fight, to be honest with you. I watched it because I remember watching this fight first, but I remember seeing Strickland in his corner and Nixick. Why don't I remember the fight? It wasn't boring. From what I remember, he smashed the shit out of him. Probably got him to lose his job in the UFC. I don't know. I'm fucking drawing a blank on this fight. And it was a TKO in the first round. But I'm completely... Fuck this fight. Moving on. I remember this fight. Leona Perino versus Jillian Robertson. This was actually a very good women's fight. This is probably the best women's fight, in my opinion. Pretty much what I had scored rounds 1 and 3 for Jillian Robertson. If I remember correctly, rounds 2, Luana kept it mostly on the feet, was able to avoid the takedowns, landed some good shots. One thing I will say about Robertson is she's very good heart. Even if she's getting boxed up and hit, she will continue to move forward. I was really hoping she was going to get the rear naked choke because that's what I picked her by. But she did get the unanimous decision victory. I thought it was a clear 20-28. If I remember, was this the fight that... I'm going to look up the judges' scorecards real quick. I think the judges... there was a couple weird judges' scorecards. The judges scored it 30-27 for her. I swear. It's like, man, I really think Luana Pinheiro clearly won round 2. She was landing good shots. Let's see. I must have been thinking of a different fight because, yeah, all 3 judges had rounds 1 and 3 for Jillian Robertson. She's able to effectively out-grapple her. In the 3rd round, that really secured that round for her. I remember hearing Dean Thomas yell in her corner. She got a takedown, pretty quickly. I think it was like within 30, 45 seconds of the third round. And he's like, you have to hold, you have to keep this position the entire round. Because it was 1-1 going to the third. And she did so. They were transitioning, going back and forth between a few different positions. But she was able to, I remember one point she was in the crucifix position, landing good elbows, putting on some good damage. Good performance by Jillian Robertson. Excited for her next fight, for her to keep climbing up the rankings. Moving forward. I knew I should have picked Gaston Bolaños. Gaston Bolaños versus Cortavius Romeus. This was the fight, I think, with the weird score. Man, one of these fights had a weird-ass scorecard. I'm going to look up the scorecard for this fight. Because I remember hearing the score, I'm like, thinking, like, what the hell? It was this fight. I scored the first round for Cortavius Romeus. Why can't I talk? Cortavius Romeus. I scored it in the first round for him. It was a pretty close first round. They're both landing good strikes. Cortavius trying to implement the grappling. Wasn't able to do so in the first round. And then one judge even gave Gaston Bolaños a 10-8. Who is it? Tony Weeks gave Gaston Bolaños I don't think he did enough for a 10-8 in the second round. I mean, he was clearly outstriking him. Cortavius looked slightly gassed in the second round. And then the third round, he really looked defeated and gassed as well. After that first round, even though I scored it for Cortavius I just barely scored it for him. I'm like, yeah, he ain't got this. You can kind of just tell sometimes when a fighter thinks he's going to be able to blow through a guy. And pause. I thought he was going to sub him in the first round. I really did. I wanted to pick him I might have picked him via, I think it was rear naked choke. I wanted to pick him via armbar, which at one point he did go, I think for a couple of times went for an armbar. But really needs to work on his cardio and striking. Did pretty decent in some of the grappling exchanges. There were some points, he pulled guard I think once during the fight, which I don't understand at all. Anyway, moving on. Co-main event. This was actually a really good fight. Go ahead and blast me in the comments. I got the co-main and the main event wrong. Those are the only fights. Let's get into this one. So we have Gerald Meerschaert versus Reinier de Ridder. Great fight. First round. It was within the first 30, 45 seconds. Reinier de Ridder is going for a takedown. Meerschaert shucks him off. Defends a takedown. Where usually Meerschaert's the one shooting for takedowns. He clearly you could tell he wanted to keep this fight on the feet. And in the first round, he was beating Reinier de Ridder. He was outboxing him, clearly. Like the last 5 seconds, I can't remember what he landed, but then he hit him with a right hand and dropped Meerschaert. I still scored, because when you initially saw it versus when they showed the replay, I don't think that really hurt Meerschaert that bad. He was focused on de Ridder the entire time. His eyes didn't leave his opponent. He was all there. I think he was moving backwards and he hit him as he was leaving and he kind of just went with it. But still, I'm checking here. All 3 judges had the first round for de Ridder. Even though he got beat up the entire first round. Outside of that last 5 seconds where he caught Meerschaert, Meerschaert was landing good, even stung him. I hurt him a little bit a couple of times. So I personally scored the first round for Gerald Meerschaert, even though he got dropped in the last 3 seconds. Going in the second round, Meerschaert is able to pretty much do what he did in the first round, except not get hurt. Out-grapples him the whole time. Now, in my opinion, going into that third round, I think Meerschaert thought that he had won the first and second round, which I agree with. I thought he did win the first and second round. Obviously, he didn't know that the judges gave de Ridder the first round because he got dropped at the end there. And I understand giving him the first round. He got outboxed the entire first round outside the last 3 seconds where he hurt Meerschaert. You could kind of tell Meerschaert was tired. Definitely tired. And I think he was trying to cruise. In his mind, he had won the first 2 rounds, so he was trying to cruise to a decision victory. And he was just in survival mode. and then DeRitter gets him down and gets the head and arm choke. One of Meerschaert's signature submissions gets done to him. I'm going to say this right now. Renan DeRitter, he could probably crack the top 15. He's not going to be champion. I don't think he'll fight for a belt. Trying to think middleweight division. They could get him in the top 15, but he looks like complete shit on the feet. He is awful. He's definitely, they were saying it during the commentators were saying it during the event. He is a jiu-jitsu specialist. His striking is completely ass. That's why I picked Gerald Meerschaert in this fight. Renan DeRitter's last fight, he looks, even in this fight, he's slow. His striking is terrible. He's got okay power. I mean, he hurt Meerschaert. But I'll have to check the top 15. I think he'll probably stay within that 15 to 10 range. Maybe like maybe 8. He gets to 8. But there's just too many good strikers with good takedown defense in the middleweight division who are going, like Kyle Borralho, I think would easily beat him. I picked Strickland to beat him. He could probably beat Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier's pretty old. That could be a top win. Whitaker beats him. Chimaev beats him. Dricus beats him. I think Jack Hermanson probably beats him. Roman Dolidze. I think Roman Dolidze probably beats. There's a lot of people in the top 15, I think, that beat him. So I don't think he's going to go very far in the top 15. Look like shit outside of the grappling exchanges in this fight. His striking's awful. Anyway, moving on to main event. I figured this was going to happen, honestly. I really did figure this was going to happen. Now, to be fair, up until Prates won this fight, Magny was winning. I mean, he's immediately going for takedowns. I think he gets him down for a second, and then he pops right back up. They didn't even count him for a takedown. Magny shooting for a lot of takedowns, a lot of control time against the fence. Again, I wish they put that on here. He probably had 2 minutes of control time just up against the fence. Classic Neil Magny fight. And in the finishing sequence, you could tell, just before the finishing sequence, you could tell that Prates was locked in and he was just looking for that one shot. I think Prates' problem that he's going to run into once he starts fighting higher up in the rankings, which you call out JDM, Jeff Neal. Both great fights, I think. The problem he's going to get into is he's not going to throw enough volume, and he's just going to be looking for that one shot. He's not going to be able to find it. He's going to be fighting higher level opposition, and it's going to lose him the fight. I think that's going to be his problem once he gets higher up in the rankings, fighting higher up ranked opponents. But what I was going to say, when he landed that the blow that ended the fight, I'm not going to lie, and I saw a couple people online tweeting about this. It almost looked like, it might have been Billy Quarantillo tweeted about it. I can't remember. Bilal Muhammad. I can't remember who I saw. It was a fighter that tweeted it. They said it looked like Neil Magny took a dive. And I'm not going to lie. When I saw that, and even when they hit the replay, it looked like it just grazed his head. And I'm sure it fucking hurt and wobbled him. But I don't think it knocked him out cold. I think it just hurt him enough, and he knew that if he just face planted in the ground, kind of like the Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa fight. I don't think Derek Lewis was out with that elbow. I think he knew that was a way out. He was tired. Neil Magny didn't want that smoke. He didn't want the Carlos Prates, even though I thought Magny was going to win. For a minute, I was kind of believing. I'm like, see? I'm like, Neil Magny's controlling off against the fence. He's going to do this for 5 rounds and get a decision. But that didn't end up happening, obviously. I'll take my L's. It's all right. I did pretty good on this card for picks. I think I only got 4 fights wrong. I got this fight wrong, co-main event wrong, this fight, and there's one more. The Simmelsberger fight. Other than that, I picked everything else right. I didn't get exact methods of victory correct, but I'm excited to see Carlos Prates' next fight. He is fighting his exciting fight style. He's always getting those finishes. Calls out JDM Jeff Neal for the Australia card in, was it in February, March? Excuse me. Would love to see him on one of those fights. Fight either of those opponents would be, I think, if you look, I don't know if JDM will be ready by then with him being out with an injury, and Jeff Neal took no damage in his last fight, so you could throw him and Jeff Neal in there on that Australia card. But if you want to get JDM a fight in Australia against a hot up-and-coming prospect, that would also be a great fight as well. So what did you guys think of UFC Vegas 100? Was it a good card? Did it deliver? If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, drop a like on this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.